Hey, hi everyone, and welcome to 12 Steps Crashers podcast, Freestyle Sunday. I'm Eric, and I'm here with my friend and partner, Ev. We are the administrators of the 12 Steps Crashers webpage, Facebook page. You can find our podcast on Spotify and YouTube, and tonight we're just going to riff through a bunch of subjects that we kind of really didn't talk about beforehand, so I don't know where this is going, as usual. So,
And
Ev,
that's
I'm
what's
going to put
exciting
you on
about
the
it.
spot. I'm going to put you on the spot. Today is Sunday. Um, it's Father's Day. Now, I know you have fairly young children. My children are all grown up and moved out and gone away. Well, my youngest daughter still lives with me, but I know you had your children, right, for this Father's Day. So, how was that?
I had my children for the Father's Day. Like every year since over the last 15 years, I've been a dad or a stepdad, and that has been a very important day for me. Um, because that's a large part of my identity. I am a dad. Like that's more important than my career. That's more important than my hobbies. But that's the most important objectively thing in my life is being a dad. Um, it's funny because in active addiction, like I never really been doubted as a dad, and I believe I did a quite a good job. But not as I would have liked to do, but considering the fact that I was trying to kill myself with substance abuse, um, like I've always been involved in school politics or going to outings with the kids, with school, with daycare. I've been on comedies with daycare for the entire like child age of my kids. Like I've always involved myself in their life above and beyond, be it hobbies, being sports, um, homeworks, and my three kids have great mothers. I'm not saying that I'm the dad of the year and I've been doing this on my own. Like it is not like that at all. Uh, but I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. I'm just taking myself as a baseline. Being a dad uh, is the most important thing for me in my life. Like it is, we talked about purpose on the last episode. Well, that's in itself is the biggest purpose you can actually think of, at least for me. Um, and I see another alternate reality where I wouldn't have been a dad. I would probably have been extremely purposeful in other aspects. Like it's not the only path to actually live a fulfilling life, but it is the one that I chose three times. So yeah, I have three children between the age of 13 and age 6. Um, and up until I actually asked for help and been honest about my substance use disorder, um, like any other parents, I did my fair share of mistakes. But like nobody doubted that I was a fit father, and quite the opposite, actually. Like like people, even to this day, and it's so destabilizing. But I've been asked for tips and opinions about every one of my friends um parenthood situation. Like they ask like what should I do, my kid does that, because I've been having kids earlier than most of my friends. But like my story is not, it's not necessarily what I want to delve in tonight, but when I decide to reach for help, then everything that I was ever entrusted about or believed to be good or trustable about has been doubted, including my fitness as a father. Um, and I'm not referring to necessarily my the mother of my children's mothers, plural. More like the system, the society, like what good does a drug addict does in their kid's life. It doesn't matter that this addict is sober or saying is sober, because how can you trust an addict?
Well,
3%
you're talking about from the court's perspective now, or from
court
social
perspective, but
services
also
perspective.
school system, or
Right.
quite about any professional involved in childcare or child support. I'm not talking about alimony, but child support in every aspect of
Any
specialities, and
services, right? So they look at you kind of askew now, and your word's not to be trusted at
I'm a
all. Now
liability for the
you've
first
gone a
time in
complete.
my life.
That's it. So you've gone a complete role reversal. Like you were the addict, and you had no problem, and everybody believed you, and people reached out to you for advice on parenting. And now, since you came clean because you needed to get well, so you came clean because that's one of the things we do to honestly recover is we tell the truth. And now the whole role has been reversed. You just can't be trusted anymore. Even though you did all this and you were trusted while you were doing that, now in recovery, it's the opposite. You're to be punished now. They didn't catch you then, so they're punishing you now. Is that it?
Yes, and
It feels that way, right?
yes, and like it's a bit childish for us to, like, if we're gonna react this way and stay on this position that we are victim of whatever it is we think we're victim of. I don't look at it this way, because whatever's happening in my life, whatever consequences I'm facing, I fucking had them coming, regardless that they are objectively unfair. Like even like most of, because I have a whole team of specialists working on my recovery. I'm not alone. Like I have a social worker, I have a psychologist, I have a psychiatrist, I have an addiction counselor, I have a co-parenting coach, I have 2 lawyers. There's a lot of people working on my team. Like I don't feel alone with my problems anymore, and I haven't felt alone with my problems in the last year. And I've did so much work, and I am recovering, in spite of everything else. But like it feels often that regardless what I do, the outcome will remain the same. Like I'm being treated, I'm convinced, exactly the same as if I would have relapsed 3 times over the last year, but I did not. Like I'm being tested every 2 weeks, P-test. I'm being tested every 2 months, hair follicles. And that can date back up to 24 months in the past, given certain conditions. If hair wasn't cut in 24 months. But it's not my case. You remember I had very long hair back then. So obviously the hair that I had when using is no longer on my body, like not a single hair. But to the very least, it traces back and legally 90 days before. I'm being asked to do it every 60 days, but it confirms that I haven't used in the last 90 days from a legal perspective. And not that I'm complaining again, but it costs a lot of money, and who's to assume that actual cost? It is me alone. Like all of the consequences that I am dealing with are mine to fucking assume, and it's great. It's all the life lessons that I didn't pick onto when I was a kid, when I was a young adult, when I was a successful professional. All of those things that I have ignored, I'm getting them the hard way today. And If I wasn't humble to begin with on that journey, I have no choice to be humble. And in many ways, I am glad that things are going exactly the way they are, even though it feels like I'm going to die. The pain that I'm actually going through, that I'm doing it the right way. Like, I'm not cheating that recovery. I am not lying to get out of shit. I am dealing with the consequences of being honest in a system that actually does not necessarily value that. But I've been lying so much in my fucking life. The reason why I am being stripped off of every ounce of trust that anybody ever had in me is because I abused that trust. So it is my responsibility to actually own that. Is nobody else has lied or put lies in my mouth. I did that. And it's sad, but we all know this, right? Once you are an identified liar, well, what else have you lied about? You know?
Oh,
And
you
I've
can always
lied
go
about
into
a lot.
politics.
Yeah. I
Politics, you still
couldn't
got that left.
I couldn't do politics because I had a story like
Why
I
not?
don't know, like Hunter
Oh, they're
Biden.
all liars, man.
I have too much stuff in my closet to do politics, but otherwise than that, I probably could have done a pretty good career on that field. Yeah, but I just want to go back to your question about my day.
Oh, there was a
I had an
question. I
amazing
forgot
day.
all about it.
Yeah, you asked me how was my day today, and that was about 10 minutes ago. Uh, so I had to put it into context, but um, I I'm gonna say that it's a privilege, but in the context of my divorce ongoing and my recovery ongoing, the current reality is that my oldest son is with me 7 days out of 14. It's been like that for the past 10 years. You know, like we have an awesome co-parentality, me and his mother, and if she needs my help, I'm there. If I need her help, she's there. You know, like we are parenting this child in common as we should. Um, on the other end, and it's nobody's to blame in there except again maybe me for my past action. But for my two youngest children that I had with my later wife, things are not going that great because like it happened that way. I'm responsible for the outcome of my past behaviors, and I'm not gonna blame anybody else on that topic for any other reason. I can only control what I do, and I can only assume the outcome of what I do. And the outcome of what I do is that I'm getting to see those two children that have been in my life 24/7 since they were born, except for the 30 days I was in treatment. But today it's 2 days out of 40. Um, and that in itself is a big factor in why I'm still battling depression. Because, I opened this episode by saying being a dad is the most of what I am. And besides that, honestly, since I'm honest with myself for the first time in my life, I don't really know what I am. But I know that I'm a dad, and I'm good at that. I can definitely get better at that. But for now, I'm praying for eventually a split custody like I have with my first son and the type of relationship that I have with my first baby mother. It is not the case. And most of it is my fault. At least, especially in the context of a podcast, this is the only thing I'm going to talk about. Like anything else is not recovery driven, but my responsibility in the things that are happening to me, that's what I own, and that's what I'm working. Um, and while I'm working extremely hard to change this, my daily struggle is acceptance of all this. And I think I'm doing a good job at that. At least from the way I'm talking to you, and you heard me so many times in shares in our groups. Like, I do not fight reality. Reality is happening, and yeah, I don't run from that. Like, I don't run from my emotions. But all that to say that the dates align good for me, because for my birthday I had my 3 kids. For Father's Day I had my 3 kids, and like nothing makes a lot of sense in my life since I've became a lonely man, quote unquote. I'm not that lonely. I'm surrounded by so many good friends, but living on my own, the only 2 days that makes total sense is that one weekend out of 2. Like, I'm in complete control of my element. I'm not asking myself, I'm not doubting, I'm just being. I'm being in the moment. It doesn't get better than this. My weekends are in the moment, just by definition, when I'm with my kids, and we are in action because I only have 2 days, so we do so much. Like, I'm not, oh, come just go play because I'm busy. I'm not busy. We are playing, and I was not necessarily like that when I was in active addiction. I was busy. I was anxious. I was not on my A game. I was not necessarily neglecting, but I was not on my A game. Today I am. Even though the 12 other days out of 14, I am definitely not on my A game. I am when I am a dad. And I take a lot of pride from that. My self-esteem revolved a lot around that. So being told that I'm being questioned about my fitness as a parent is extremely challenging for that very fragile thing that is my self-esteem. All that to say that I've received so much love today from all of my kids, from my mother as well, and I felt celebrated. But like, it's the 15 years that in a row that we celebrate this, but that has a totally different meaning this year. Even though, like, objectively, that there's a lot of things that are not great, but my kids regard on me has never been that candid and admiring. Like, I see the change in their eyes. If I need to prove that I'm changing, that I'm healing, I can always look into my child's, how they look at me. And today, 3 of them were glowing, and I received the cutest crafts, and I guess most people and most years we gotta overlook, like, how important that is, because we live busy life, but that's the only thing that matters in my life. Like, I'm walking the talk because that really is the only thing that matter in my life. So, to answer your question, I had a very good day, very emotionally challenging, especially since, they are leaving at the end of that day. But I'm grateful for every minute of my weekend. And it gives me everything I need to survive the 12 next days until I see them again. That is my Father's Day. Glad you asked.
Well, it seemed like you had something to say.
Yeah, I did. I didn't plan any of that what I'm saying, but I think I did a good job explaining what that means.
I've heard you talk about that before, and you do always. It plays in your mind. I can see that because you always come. There's a few themes that you run through, and being very honest and facing the consequences of your decisions is 2 of the themes that always come up in your shares and groups, and with me too. You always talk about that, and it is what it is. As we like to say sometimes, right? It's not our favorite saying, but Um, uh,
You
I,
love to quote 12 steppers. You do love to quote them. Let's be honest.
they stole them from everybody else, anyways. And I'm just stealing from them. That's all. I love that. There's some good ones. They don't
Yes.
put a lot of thought into it, but there's some good ones. Some of them don't make any sense at all in some ways, you know.
Eric, tonight's topic in our group was the alts. Would you explain to the audience what the alts are?
Well, halt in the SMART program. So you did actually SMART tools tonight.
Yes, we did.
Oh, wow,
We did.
cool. How about that? Yeah, halt. Sorry, I missed it. HALT is hungry. It's an acronym for hungry, angry, lonely, tired.
Yeah.
Some people add the extra H in there somehow. They like
What is
spell
it?
it HAHL or something like that, or they put, I forget, because some people throw in horny.
Oh yeah, Orny. Yeah, of course.
Horny,
Yes.
you know, some people, but yeah. So the acronym
It's a really
stands
good
for
reason to
hungry,
relapse. Yeah.
angry, lonely, tired. Yes, all emotions, all feelings that you in recovery, especially early recovery, it's to be aware of. It's stuff you need to be mindful of. If when you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling any of those emotions to begin with, because a lot of times it could be just that, and you certainly don't want things to spiral. Another thing we've learned in smart recovery is the waterfall. You know, as
Mm-hmm.
you're floating on a river as you always are because life is a river, right? And you're on the raft. You're just following the current. You don't have a choice. And but you can get off the raft and swim to shore if you see a waterfall ahead, right? Now the waterfall is like a metaphor for like that bad decision, that relapse that you have 3 seconds, right, to avoid, to dispute. So yeah, halt. So what did you share on halt, by the way, or did you not share on halt? Because I
I
wasn't in the
did.
meeting tonight because I have a life and I was busy. It's not that I don't
I,
like the meetings, but I can't make them all.
exactly. I did, and I was happy there was a topic that was not Father's Day, because what I just shared to you, and ironically, I'm sharing it to the entire world, but I didn't feel like this.
So you're fine.
Yes, that, yeah. Please don't listen to our podcast. That would be a terrible idea, guys. Uh, but what I meant is I didn't feel comfortable bringing it to the group, not because I'm not. I don't want to say this. It's because I don't want to bring down the atmosphere. And again, it's recurring, but it doesn't have that much to do with recovery or substance abuse. Like it does, but what I actually have to say has much more to do about parenthood. Period. Um, and I was happy there was the topic that was the alts, because, well, got another really great opportunity to be awfully honest about how not good I am just yet at taking care of myself, and listening to those lights popping up in the dashboard. Um, I don't really get lonely for a lonely person, at least not bored. Um, I don't I don't really get angry. I usually get more sad, but like those things are often just coming together. But you kind of add the angry into the sad. At least I do that. That's how I avoid being actively angry. Hungry, well, yeah, I have a quite a share of emotion. That's one way to process them, right? Over the last year, uh, but that also is a bit, like you live with somebody else, you're not entirely alone. But
I
and
am
when
alone,
my
but yes, I live with somebody else.
yeah, when
Okay.
when my son is here, and the fact I have to cook for somebody else, and I'm actually a fucking dad, like 3 meals a day is it's not complicated. I'm alone, man. cooking for myself is, I don't want to date that guy anyway. And I don't really feel hunger. I feel a lot of other things, like having no one to feed. Like, so there's quite a few reasons why I'm not great with that, managing my alts. But like, again, I say I'm not great with that. I don't starve myself to death. I don't make decisions out of the fact that I'm horny. And I can actually, like the word alting myself, I can do that. I do alt myself when I'm actually spinning into the wrong direction. So am I that bad? It's a matter of perspective, but I'm not taking care of myself as much as I probably should. But I'm doing my best. And that's the only thing I can actually do is my best.
My perspective on it, well, I hear what you say, and my perspective on it is a little different because I'm not worried about relapsing when I think of halt. It's other things that come to mind. And before I go on, is that a rabbit on that painting? Because I've been staring at it for a while.
Point.
Yeah, the
Rabbit.
painting behind there, is that a rabbit up there? Is that a rabbit head? What is that? Or is that a bonnet?
There's 4 ladies.
Okay, she's wearing a hat.
Yeah, they are all wearing a hat. Yeah.
Okay,
One is
it looks like a
banded.
rabbit. It was really
This one's
bugging me. I
banded.
thought it was a rabbit.
Yeah, so but they all I'm not sure exactly what they're picking up, but vegetables,
Okay, no, I had to know that or I wouldn't be able to continue.
And so now that we're gonna have to go into what that is. My mom's husband, so my stepdad, could have been a professional painter, but he just kept it as a hobby. And this is one of their favorite place to go to for vacations. Marie Galante. It's an island, like very not popular, very not touristy. That's their jam, right? They go to places where they're gonna be isolated and alone and blend into the population. And that's actually just a scenery that they add in front of one of their stays, like Airbnb kind of thing, every morning. So he just painted that. And for some reason, I did inherit it, and I find it beautiful. I know the story, but it is not my story. It's not my trip. So back to what we were saying. Sorry about that ADHD moment, people.
When you rewatch this, because I'm going to tell you now, you're going to see what I'm seeing. I see a rabbit. The farthest. It's still distracting. I'll try not
Guys,
to look at
is
it.
there a rabbit there? All right, please comment.
When you play this back, you're going to see a rabbit. Anyway, I'll try not to look at it. Yeah, halt. All right, good. What's it saying? Oh yeah, it's not about relapse for me, halt. Especially because I do at work, I get the angry part. Right, it's better with therapy. It's better. I've been deliberately working on therapy design for my anger at work and my issues, but for a few months there, my anger was manifesting at work. I was really mouthing off, did not care, telling some of my supervisors and my foremen really what I thought and where they could go at the same time, and turn my back on them and leave. And then, of course, tired. And I've talked about this in other shares. Tired has always been something. I never liked to be tired. During my whole life, I never liked to be tired. I always kind of felt tired. But then at night, during the day, so that night, when then I would fix myself and I wouldn't be tired until I went to bed. Whether I was using or whether I was drinking or both. And now in recovery, tired still is an enemy for me. And I've shared before when I nap, how I wake up from naps with like a self-attack. It's like my brain is angry at me that I'm tired, and my brain is angry that I napped and I wasn't doing something. And I get that same self-attack for other things. So I have to be careful with the halt, and that not so much for, and then now it's always a possibility, right? That something would give me an urge, but more than anything else, it's the managing the emotions part of halt that I actually am. I'm aware of it. I am aware of the acronym because I'm still in early recovery. It's not a year yet. Yeah, I know you've passed the year mark, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 15
Right.
months.
Yeah. Okay. So you're past the year mark. I still find things that pop up that I still have to deal with. That's it. I'm assuming that I'm assuming that's normal in early recovery. As issues pop up, you deal with them right away, or you try to. Then in the next few weeks, so that it doesn't become a reoccurring thing. That's what a therapist is for, actually, right? Is to work on
Yeah.
those issues as they arise. And I've been fairly successful. Somehow my brain gets it right away. When I deal with it in therapy, it almost subsides. It's like my brain just needs to go to therapy, and I just tell my therapist, and I deal with my therapist. We touch on feelings, get some feelings out, and then it's not the first day, it's not the second day, but the next week, I've kind of like worked past it. It's amazing how therapy works. But yeah, the HALT acronym, yeah, I can definitely identify, and certainly I can understand people in early recovery, like just out of rehab, right? How
Yeah.
especially I would think the lonely, because you isolate when you first come out. I would think the lonely would be the hardest, and I believe it. We've heard it in shares. It's some of the
Eric,
hardest things for some people.
yeah, but I know you're a bit older than me, but we kind of already getting out of treatment. I'm just gonna say, Arnie is a big factor as well.
What's that?
Arnie,
Oh
being
yeah.
Arnie,
Okay.
I think that's a big problem you have when you get out of treatment.
Not me. I coming out of treatment. Well, because I did my life story and I looked at a lot of different things, dealing with grief and how I processed it. Also dealing with past relationships in a way, making understanding them better, what happened, what I did, and what they did. And I knew coming out of treatment that I wanted nothing to do with dating and having anybody in my life right now. It just is not possible. It's I am still working on myself. I could not possibly entertain. For one thing, I have no fucking time for anybody that really wants a relationship. It's not a thing. There is just, and with the podcast now too, meme page. I know these are interests, but they're partially passions, right? Stuff
And
I don't
commitments.
want. Right, and stuff I don't want to let go right now. There's something I'm pursuing because I feel strongly about it. Right, it's part of my
Yeah.
sobriety. It's part of my program. It's part of my package. Um, I just no. It's. I don't even entertain it really. It's not that I don't see women. I'm not that I'm not aware of their presence. But it's just that I I catch myself sometimes, like almost, or on the phone, right? Start text back and forth with someone in just comment sections, on their page, not our page, but on their page, let's say. And I start to notice I'm starting to fall into flirtation. And boy, do I notice that right away. And I say to myself, oh, no, the fuck you're not. Don't do that. For one thing, you work tomorrow. I don't want to be up for the next hour having this flirtation conversation. You got to go to bed in 20 minutes. Fuck this shit right now. Like that's what I tell myself. Motherfucker, you're going to shut this down right now. Matter of fact, tell her you hate the shirt she's wearing and it's over. That'll finish it right there. Why did you choose
Ruin
that?
it. Ruin it.
Yeah, just
Bad.
ruin it. Why did you put that on today? Oh my God. I hope you can return it,
Makes you look
no,
fat.
well, I don't go that far. We don't want to burn bridges. Uh, no, but all that to say that, yeah, I hear you, but you are a lot younger than me. I'm 55, right? I just had a birthday. So now I'm freedom 55. I haven't found the freedom yet. But I'm at 55, and I'm also in a different place than you, right? So I got a little bit more time in, and now I just, as it stands right now, I don't really know myself in recovery. You understand what I mean? When I say that, how Eric is away from everything. Because even when I was sober from alcohol, there was a long period where I was doing other drugs, whether if it was speed or cocaine. So, but as maintenance, I wasn't abusing them necessarily. It's all abuse, I guess, but not, I used it like medication,
But considering these
which,
things contain fentanyl, that I don't believe that
but this
that
is years
is
ago,
great.
right?
But
I'm talking years ago.
crystal meth then back then was the filler for everything. Now it's fentanyl, even in coke. Yeah, so it's serious drug, guys. See, we don't maintain on ice pills. We don't. It's
No,
not
no.
maintenance.
Actually, I didn't like ice. But let's not go there. That's why I stopped. Couldn't find my brand. But I'm very, very, very heavy on brand. But so when it comes to the horniness, I don't have that problem. I know I went off topic there a little bit. I'm not romanticizing because I've talked before how I've really closed the book on it. But,
Yeah.
unlike other people, I can look back and remember some of the awe-inspiring things that happened. Some that, for a lot of stuff I did, it was either to give me clarity or to give me like awe-inspiring moments, which some people would call them spiritual. Um, and I'm, don't do drugs, kids, but there's a lot of people that pass by there in certain cultures too, right? So it's probably not the topic I want to get on, but
Please go on.
yeah, let's just move on because I'm all over the place when it comes to that subject. That's why I believe in moderation. That's why I believe in tapering people off with other kind of things too. I don't believe in total abstinence like that right away. I don't think it's possible. Myself, when I was in Heritage, when I went in, I mean, they almost didn't keep me, right, because my blood pressure was going through the roof, and my pulse. I was going, they were checking me, the intake nurse checking me, and I'm like, oh, my blood pressure is really bad, right? He goes, it's not that I'm looking at. She goes, I'm looking at your pulse. She goes, that's really bad. And they almost didn't want to keep me, right? Because I was on watch in my room, right? They kept coming every couple hours to see if I wasn't on the floor, doing a little dance. And yeah. So
not
I was
that
on
irritated
Librium, right? So they gave me
It's not
Librium, right,
middle of
after the
nowhere.
first.
You are far from an hospital. If shit gets bad,
Yeah,
you may be in danger. So they cannot keep
yeah.
you when your vitals are not where they should
No.
be.
Well, I think look, because I was so coherent and I was so dead set I was going to do this, but physically I think they wanted to get rid of me. But anyways, I'm lucky enough they let me stay, and I got better, even though I didn't sleep for the first 3 days completely. I did not sleep, so on day 4 I got some sleep, and I was on Librium right after. I forget. I think they start you the low dose Librium 14 hours after you're there when you walk through the doors, 12 to 14 hours, something like that, and then you're on it, and it helps with the shakes, right, that you have. Those shakes, those are fun, right? Like, wow, those peanut butter packets in the rec room, I tell you, stabbing them with a knife because I couldn't get the little lid off. You got the little foam lid. And I'm up early, so there's no one else there, anyways. Yes, exactly. I showed you that motion, eh? Or I just went, fuck you. Fucking, I stabbing peanut butter packets. I will eat today, damn it. And yeah, so. What were we talking about? Halt. Okay.
We're talking about being orny and the fact that
Okay,
you
well,
knew better about yourself, especially since starting therapy, I think, right?
I knew this before starting therapy. I knew as soon as I got sober that was one of the things, old behaviors, right? People, places, and things they talk about. Well, that was part of my program. Was nobody but me.
But you had identified it was a risk factor even before getting sober, right? You were not pursuing relationship, even
not long-term relationships.
Yeah. Okay. I get what you mean.
Couldn't possibly maintain a relationship, right?
You see that we were at considerably different places. I've been in a relationship for 10 years, and I don't particularly believe in the institution of marriage, but I did marry that woman because I really thought that we were going to make it last till the end, you know. As cheesy as it sounds, I was committed to that relationship. Not that I'm not to blame for it to fall down, and that I did not betray trust, and I did all those things. But I was committed to that relationship, and the fact that I was giving a second chance to save that relationship has to do with the fact that I succeeded. Like, I am grateful of this great human being in my life for staying by my side as I was in extremely early recovery, as I was trying to work the program in Heritage. And I can only speak for myself, but the 5 months that came after that were the months where I felt the best in that relationship. Like, I felt that relationship was what it should have been. Now, I largely underestimate the actual resentment I was responsible for, and unfortunately, love was not enough for this to last. But all that to say that I did not have my eyes on any other woman, right? At least not that kind of eyes, because 90% of my friends are female, so that's another thing special with me, I guess. I do not engage women for romantic purposes. Like, that's not the reason why I engage women. I see them as human beings, you know, and probably better human beings than most men, but that's another topic. I don't know what it is to be on the meat market. Like, I honestly don't know. Like, I don't understand the codes. I feel totally autistic when opening a dating app. I don't understand. Like, it's like Mandarin. I don't know how to behave on that. I don't understand the game, and it's so uncompatible with my sobriety journey. I want to be genuine and honest. I want to build relationships that are deep rooted and honest and vulnerable. You don't do that on dating apps. So and depression doesn't really make you horny. At least it doesn't do that for me. So it hasn't really been a problem since then.
Put that in your profile either on the dating app.
No, I can get it up. Sorry,
Never know. There might be somebody looking for that, but who knows?
That was
probably not somebody you want to meet, actually.
All sort of kinks.
Stay by my side while I'm working on me. Yeah. I understand it's hard when none of this is your fault, but I'm hoping you don't leave. Will you stay by my side while I'm working on me? Yeah. I'm unlearning some things. I don't expect you to stay, but I'm hoping you don't leave. All I can say, I'm committed to change things I learned growing up, but you don't have to wait. Sorry, baby, I'm falling down. And that's why I'm calling now. Childhood trauma, fucked up dad and a fucked up mama taught me that love means drama. Hostility was the problem solver, except nothing ever got solved. Go figure, trying to reconfigure my brain. I'm triggered by arguments, reactive, I'm on defense. Of course my girl is on defense. you stay by my side when I'm working on me? Yeah. I understand it's hard when none of this is your fault, but I'm hoping you don't leave. Will you stay by my side while I'm working on me? Yeah. I'm unlearning some things. I don't expect you to stay, but I'm hoping you don't leave. Yeah. And all I can say, I'm committed to change things I learned growing up, but you don't have to wait. Sorry, baby, I'm falling, falling, falling down. And that's why I'm calling, calling, calling now.
Put up with my shit, huh? Fixed to a real misfit, huh? You been too legit through the times I had you tired and sick, but we really could've split, I'm under construction, I see the foundation, you holding us up like a beam, I'm sorry. Who would've known that my past would harm me? I should've known that this change would cost me. It's Wednesday night and I'm looking for a flight, I can make it to your side by the PM. I'll spend more time and I'll make it for the time I treated the love like a per diem. I bottled a lot of my pain and mixed it with things I couldn't explain, and then I sip. I try to contain, but then I flip. Shit.
You stay by my side when I'm working on me. Yeah. I understand it's hard when none of this is your fault, but I'm hoping you don't leave. You stay by my side when I'm working on me. Yeah. I'm unlearning some things. I don't expect you to stay, but I'm hoping you don't leave. Yeah. And all I can say, I'm committed to change things I learned growing up, but you don't have to wait. Sorry, baby, I'm falling, falling, falling down. And that's why I'm calling, calling, calling now.
That being said, that's not a problem either that I have, but the problem that I have is that a lot of friends, female friends that I had for years, even decades, starting to hit on me as I felt the worst. Like, and some of those
See now?
relationships
You see what it was?
are honest enough that I can say, no, that won't happen. And then, like, can we resume being friends, or is that the end of us? You know, like, but
I gotta ask you a question here. Do you feel like you were lied to? Like they were waiting in the wings?
No.
Like, this is not gonna last. I've seen them together. Nah, he's gonna be free one day.
Well, some of them, but not those that I call friends. Friends, you know, because.
Are you suggesting that women act like men?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like, okay, well, there you go.
At least from my perspective,
like a little bit of behavior that some men are accused of.
My dynamics says that it's pretty much the same thing. Statistics probably doesn't say the same thing, so I'm gonna not put every egg in the same basket here, but I'm talking about my own experience, right? But I think, and I don't want to think highly of myself more than I should. I'm not good at that self-esteem to begin with, but I think these women value me and know me quite well. I don't believe they were waiting for an opportunity for it to become romantic. But what happened is that I'm so scared of even considering the concept of getting into a relationship that it's like, like you presented foods you cannot eat anymore. You're full, right? Or you're sick. You can, like It doesn't matter. It looks good. Doesn't matter. It smells good. Doesn't matter. It's funny and it talks sweet to you. It doesn't matter. That food, if you cannot eat, you won't eat it. You know. Not sure that was the best image, but I think it's funny, so that should go. Yeah, I'm not hungry.
So we've taken the H out of the equation of halt. Totally.
Yeah, but just the corner around this is, you know, like, in contrast, I have a deep and unlimited need for genuine connections, and I find this in friendship. And to me, at least today, it has more value than romance. Like our relationship, Eric, I'm going to go that far. It says as much more value to me than romance today.
Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
I am, I need you more than I need to be in love, right?
Right.
And I appreciate you more than the fucking headache I would have trying to get into a relationship with my unmanageable life. Right?
That's the thing with people in our group, right? Because we have a shortcut, right? Because we know a lot about each other already. Because we've been listening to each other's shares for 8 months, a year, right? So in some ways, there's things we know that even in a, let's say, a relationship, let's say you started a relationship with a friend that knows you. She doesn't know all of you, right? All that stuff that you kept hidden from your wife, you kept hidden from them too. So
yes,
I mean,
I have no problems. I'm really living a good life, you know. Yeah,
and this is the thing about the recovery groups is that we have that shorthand, that shortcut to go right to what we want to say because we know the history in some ways and we know our issues. We've talked about them. We openly talk about them. Whereas in like a new relationship, you're not going to start bringing up this stuff right away. You might hit on certain topics and point out certain things and priorities and boundaries, but there's no way you can like wholeheartedly go in. Plus, you're not going to get the reception from them, the understanding from them that you would from me or from somebody else in our group that you'll be talking to, right? So there's that too. It's recovery and the halt.
You know, like there's other things that I've enjoyed doing as a single man. It's just flirtatious but joking, right? Like with no intention of, and it's clear on both ends. Like we're playing somehow. Like that's cool. I have no problem with that. When it gets real, or when actually I feel like this could be the right person, my go-to, I don't run from many things, but I do run from that because I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to blow it. If we have to have a chance together, well, I'd rather it be when I'm healed, when I'm capable of, if ever, and only by respect for the person that I'm interested enough to consider such thing with. It's only a matter of respect, not to impose me, the version of me that is struggling on a daily basis with just basic functioning. Like this is my actual issue. Function to the very basis of what I should be doing. So of course I am not great for anybody else, and it would be extremely unfair to kind of lean onto somebody else that actually is doing great to lift myself up. Like that's a very asshole addict kind of thing to do. Not going to be doing that. I might have done that in the past. If you felt like I've done that with you, I'm deeply sorry. It was not my intention, but I did. I'm saying that to the universe and anybody who has their ears ringing right now. I'm sorry. I didn't know better back then. I do now, though. And you know, even sex feels extremely overrated. like especially like men my age kind of are like obsessed a bit with that because we feel like, oh, I'm about to turn 40 and it's going to be the downfall. What the fuck does that even mean? Like, I need to conquer as much. No, you don't. You don't. You just don't. At least not from where I'm coming from. And I've shared with you a bit of my intimacy lately. Like I have very little interest into the mechanic function of mating. It is not exactly something that I find fulfilling.
Well, let me just point out to you, if you say it like that to whoever you're courting, they're not going to find it very fucking interesting either. You might want to, I don't know, pick some different words.
I kind of just realized
Watch
now
a
that
Hugh Grant movie or something. Hugh Grant, he talks really nice. Try him.
Yes. I'm going to have a lot of apologies to do tonight because a lot of people that I actually have mechanically mated with recently might be listening to this podcast, might actually like me, might actually even love me. I'm sorry. I am.
When I hear mechanically, I think separated chicken. Mechanically separated chicken. It's just that, it's just not sexy, man. It's not sexy at all.
That's how we make sausages.
Greasy even. Fatty, greasy, lots of salt. Anyhow, let's not talk about my last dates. The Hulk, though.
You know what?
I'm trying to get back to Hulk because
we will. But I just want to also say something that is an entire paradox to what I just said.
No, really?
I'm deeply romantic. Like I expect and I kind of wish to fall in love, but I need to protect as much as I can from it. But at the same time, when I'm going to be honest, like I'm praying to find the right person, but I'd like ideally for it to be at the right moment. Now you can go. Let's alt me. Shut the fuck up, Eric. And yes, what were you about to say, Eric?
Well, now I'll just expand or expound on what you said. I wouldn't call I'm romantic. Yes, in some ways. And do I still have notions that are romantic? Yes, I do. But boy, do I like shit. And the best way I can describe it is like I just punch it down. Fucking get down here. You're not doing that. I'm telling myself all the time, no, you're not going there. Not even to start, initiate anything, right? Just the flirt, to experiment, to test the waters. Not doing that. So just getting back to Halt for one more second, then we'll let it go. I want to move on to something else anyways. The Halt does seem like such a all-encompassing thing when like we use it because we're talking in Smart Program, they talk about it for the early recovering addict, right? Because it's to identify your anxiety, right? What is making you feel compelled or having urges or whatever, and is it one of these things? Because let's face it, everybody in life goes through Halt: hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Everybody. It
has nothing to do with recovery or.
It doesn't. No, it's managing emotions. Identifying and managing your emotions.
If you don't manage your emotions, you will relapse for sure. That's the only relationship between the two.
That's the relationship. Yeah. So I was going to point out that we did some memes today. You did one. Now we don't have it, but I just wanted to point out that yours went pretty viral and like the comment section was ugly. I mean, they were fighting amongst themselves. There was definitely two camps to your
because they are either feminist or anti-feminist, right? Like you have two options.
Oh no, people that had parents that were no good, or people that had a father that they didn't get to know because they had died. Then you had people making comments just offhand, like talking to people with no regard to their feelings. So you had a lot of arguing going on. That was in the ADHD one, and I put one in another. Okay, you're pulling it up, that one. That's right. Thank him for what he brought to your life. PTSD and attachment issues. Nice. Yes, and a lot of women really seem to identify with that
Eric,
one.
I cannot take credit for it because it is one of my dearest friends. I was a
mention
very
that
active supporter of her page, which I'm going to protect anonymity. Air. That is
annuity.
Anonymity. Yeah, that did this meme, and I fucking love it. I fucking love that meme.
Yeah, it's good.
But I didn't come up with it myself.
Okay. Well, that one really took off.
It did.
In 9 hours, it's incredible how many likes, and especially the comment section. And oddly
it's funny
enough,
because since we are a very small page, like the reactions are not really on our page per se, but they get fucking viral elsewhere.
Yeah, it was on another page. Yeah, on our page, like we got some reaction to this. The one with the bangs, the mirror, the inner critic.
Yeah, the one that has 0,000 reactions on our page.
Our page.
Oh, three, yeah.
On our page, yes. But in 2 other pages, especially one of them, a page called "This is so depressing. I just want to eat cheese," or I ate a block of cheese.
I want to eat a complete block of cheese. Yeah.
It's only been there like 5 hours or so, and it's like taking off. And there's people in there too that I guess they can identify with it. I love this one because this was a guy at rehab. This guy literally said this to one of the counselors.
Did you see that comment?
What? Yeah.
I expected a picture of Hunter.
I don't have his laptop.
Yeah.
I've heard things.
That can be an idea for some other time, you know?
Nah, I try not to do politics.
we
I don't
did
like
one
the people
Trump
that bring.
meme once when he was indicted on 34 counts, I believe. Found guilty on 34 counts, should I say. Yeah, we did one. And a 0 reaction again.
Yeah, on our page. Yeah. But we didn't share it anywhere.
But that's the one I like that I wouldn't have done by myself. You thought of this concept. Would you explain this? What's behind all?
Because I knew I had a funny feeling, and there were a lot of them. And if you go to our fellowship page, 12 Steps Crashers Fellowship, you will see a plethora of memes I shared from other pages. Humorous ones, not putting down fathers, but humorous ones. Some a little edgy. But I knew there wasn't going to be just something straight up, really, like, I don't know, just telling the truth. This is kind of, this is what it's about. I'm looking at this now, and this is, it's, fathers and sobriety. And, I know that you're supposed to do it for yourself, but we know a lot of people do it for the kids. How many times have we heard that I got sober for my kids? I want to be there to see my kids.
It's not mutually exclusive, right? Like,
no,
I think
no. But this Father's Day, because Father's Day, how many times do you see Mother's Day card things and memes? It sometimes feels like Father's Day gets forgotten. And oddly enough, I created this meme, and for half the day, I felt forgotten in Father's Day. But, which was maybe almost like I was foreshadowing what I was figuring was going to happen in Father's Day. So, but yeah, just some of the meme. It's funny, we have these other pages, and they take off there. Our page, not so much.
But and that it really doesn't bother me. Like, I'm doing this because I want to do this for myself, right? And I enjoy it. But the concept is a blonde man on the left with 2 somewhat teenagers that are blonde. That was a really specific demand of you, which I think kind of portrays you at a certain point in your life, right?
Possibly. It was meant to be generic.
Okay. And on the other end, like your description was also pretty prescriptive of what I actually look like. But anyways, all that to say that I think it is in our core values that are mutual of being not necessarily father figures, because I'm not sure exactly what's your position on this. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth with what I'm going to say, but I think you have an interest into the best interest of many people around you that are potentially younger than you. So that in itself is a form of mentoring to the very least, but it has, I'm going to, again, be careful with my words, but it has a fatherly function. I think you're good at that also from my perspective.
I mean, I literally have one guy that I see
I know what
regularly.
you're talking about.
I
Yeah.
don't have to elaborate, and he sometimes calls me his rehab dad, in many conversations, and it never occurred to me because when you're in rehab, you kind of feel like you're on the same level, right? But
Yeah.
when I look back on it now, I do see, because we did projects like my table that we sanded and I stained. He helped me on that project because he was still
Yeah.
there when I got around to doing it. So there was like some bonding, like you would almost like father and son. And I know from his perspective, he wasn't very close with his father. So yes, I guess you're right. There is some things like that, and I in a lot of ways, I think that would have happened even without addiction. I get the feeling that we were the right kind of people to meet and be friends, but
Yeah.
definitely this was cements things, right? It just puts things in a life and death situation in some ways. It only takes that one phone call, right? That
Yeah.
they need your help or they need you now, and you're got to be there for it. You got to be ready, right? Because
Definitely.
if they're calling with that to say anything close to that, then that's troublesome.
I think that the text I wrote, at least it's very personal for me from what you've heard in the opening 18 minutes share about
I,
fatherhood.
I set up the picture because I knew you were going to write some text like this. I just knew you would elaborate on this like this. It's beautiful. It's what I
I was
expected.
crying. Honestly, I was crying. Not like sad, but I was very emotional when I wrote this 13 hours ago. I guess I was talking about myself, but I was also trying to relate it to, because my story is not unique. Again, I take full ownership of my shit. Like it's my fault. But it is very true. Like that a lot of people deal with the same type of things that I'm dealing with right now. It could very well has killed my sobriety so many times. It could have it, but I
It's a
don't
good
let it.
thing you were sharing all the time about that.
Yes, and that's why I'm doing this podcast. That's why I'm sharing so raw about it. But I believe I'm enough, and this is faith based, huh? Nothing really indicates in my life that I'm enough. I really have to be faithful about this.
You wait a minute though. That's not, in my opinion, that's not completely true because you have evidence to the contrary that you can do these things. Maybe not. You didn't do them at the fullest of your abilities, like you wish you had, but you were there. You got stuff done. Bills were paid. Kids had food, clothes, went to school. Right? There's
Yeah,
evidence to say that you can do these things now in recovery. It's about managing yourself because how many times do I talk about self-compassion, self-esteem, and the inner critic?
yeah,
Because that's what I'm dealing with all the time. To me, I'm still dealing with myself, which is why I can't have a relationship. And and to some effect, you are fighting that too because of there's these situations that are coming up in your life that is just when you're feeling good, they're there to push you down a bit, right? To give you more obstacles, and you're just working. So you have to work a little faster on yourself than maybe you had scheduled. You know what I mean?
Actually, what I'm referring to is about what doesn't make me feel enough is that I kind of naively be expected to.
Oh,
I thought that I'd be a very, very, very different place today than where I actually stand. Uh, yeah. So what I was saying is that I know, like objectively, that I am enough. I know that like I'm doing the right things, but I I try to. The universe doesn't owe me anything. I cannot expect to have it my way just yet or ever. I don't know. But in due time, and this is not defined, but in due time, I believe it will come. I believe I'm going to be recognized as I am, or at least as I expect to become if I'm not. But it takes time. And that, unfortunately, there's no shortcut. You don't do a sober by cheating. So I felt love just so bad today. That's the only thing that did matter today. And I think that this text made this thing go viral. I don't want to take all the credit because that's your idea. The visual is beautiful as well. The joke itself is great. But I think there's what I mean by that, and what I'm thinking out loud here is that perhaps not only memes are valuable in what we do. Like this was the first maybe serious 2 memes in a row that we did, and they are very popular. Perhaps we can do other things than jokes at times. Perhaps I don't know. I'm
well,
just putting
well,
it out there.
this is a subject I broached with you before, and I felt like we could do some things that are not as humor based and more like observational based.
Yeah.
This was one of them in a way, because I'll tell you what, the idea I had, obviously my brain goes for the joke right away. So initially the idea I had was these like small kids, say 8 years old, standing in the living room with their packages, gifts for dad. And there's an empty lazy boy chair. And the mother is on the other side of the lazy boy chair, and the kids are there with the packages, like looking at the lazy boy chair, and the chair is empty. And the mother says, "Well, he went out last night for cigarettes." I
Should we
know,
do
eh?
that before midnight tonight?
What's that?
Should we do this one before midnight tonight?
Well, you can do it if you want. But I felt a
Speaking
little
of time,
tinge. I felt a little tinge in that it didn't feel right on Father's Day, being a father and all that. I think we get enough dumped on us sometimes. I had a funny feeling there wasn't going to be a really positive one out there. And whether it went viral or not, I wanted to make a statement of one that was positive, right?
and that's what we did, and
And
I'm happy we did.
I wanted to, a nice image, just showing something nice for a change.
Yeah, Eric, I'm looking at the time,
Mhm.
and I believe we have to force ourselves to develop the habit to be more concise, because people get scared when they see an hour and a half. Like they don't have an hour and a half to give us. Like
Right.
we're demanding too much of people. I
Right.
was told that a lot in the feedback.
Yeah, but we're gonna probably do this again this week because we've been doing 2 at least anyway. So
Yes, so we have a release schedule problem, but a good problem. Like, when should we release what we record? I think this one will go next, right? Because we're gonna keep it. It's really related to today. So as soon as we can get it out, I think
I think so.
it remains like pertinent from a timely perspective. And I'm really liking those exercises. I'm not sure if that makes sense for anybody else than us two and a few other addicts, but that few other addicts and those other people in my DM these days are the reason why I'm feeling good about what we do. Because we spark discussions, even in not necessarily our own group, but in our, at least in my intimate relationship, my podcast has really sparked a lot of interesting discussions with people in addiction, people that are not, people that are in recovery, people that are not, people that don't know anything about this. Like, and that to me is another gift of sobriety, is the outcome of this podcast.
We got rid of that was the original headline in that meme.
That's true.
I was like,
sobriety. No.
I hear it too often.
Enough.
Not that.
Let's
12-step
something
shit. Else. No. I was like, no way. Just you're hitting me over the head with this, not this. You know, we know it's gifts.
Yeah. All right, man. I think that's a wrap. It was great. I hope my like the things we did not discuss about my week that kind of contradicts a few things I said today. I kind of hope it gets to another level, and I get something to talk about next week.
Yeah, we need to talk a little bit more too about some upcoming things, especially maybe the Ottawa thing. We need to nail down some dates here. So, and folks, we'll be having more guests, more speakers to touch on the subject of recovery and their method of recovery or their program of recovery. So stay tuned for that too. Until then, there will be more freestyle episodes. We'll touch on some other subjects we feel that we're dealing with at the time, and it'll be recovery based. So I hope you guys stick around and watch that.
So I'm going to spoil for the regular format of the podcast. Our next guest will be an avid 12-stepper, and we will be putting our foot in our mouths because we don't know about these things, and we're going to listen.
I'm going to listen.
All right.
Why you make that face? Why you make that face? I feel like you're projecting.
We're having fun,
something.
Eric. We are having fun. That's this.
We are having fun. Look,
right?
I'm this person we've met before, so it's not like.
And I respect a lot. Like I'm really curious. Like I want to have this person on my podcast. Like period, regardless of 12-step. Like that story is purposeful again, and I want to learn about every type of recoveries, and I look forward to this next episode.
We shall see what he has to say.
All right. Good night.
Yep. Good night to you.
Bye.
Don't get horny.